Gordon G. Chang on Twitter. Gordon, welcome back to America First.
Oh, well, thank you so much, Seb.
So we are, of course, obsessed with what's happening domestically. We're right here in the swamp. We're looking at the scandals of not only the Lincoln Project, but the shutting down of the XL pipeline, the troops all over D.C. But geopolitics moves on at a pace. It has its own speed. We have to focus on the events occurring in the Asia-Pacific region. How has China reacted to the last 10 days in U.S. politics? Has there been a recognizable shift in their policies, Gordon?
Really, they've been quite threatening. Xi Jinping spoke at Davos, the World Economic Forum, and he sent a message which the Wall Street Journal said was veiled, but actually I think it was quite blatant and open, and it was essentially a threat to the Biden administration about closing the world up. Can't do that. The United States is in trouble. All of those things Xi Jinping has been saying, and clearly they are now thinking that they can push Biden around.
And with regards to Taiwan and actually military activity, what is it that Americans need to be aware of, Gordon Chang?
Two things. Last weekend, the 23rd and 24th of January, China sent a big contingent of planes through Taiwan's air defense identification zone in the South China Sea. And clearly that was a message not only to Taipei, but also to Washington. And on Saturday, there were nuclear-capable bombers, China's H-6Ks, and they practiced an attack on the Theodore Roosevelt Carrier Strike Group, which was also in the South China Sea at the time. And that is certainly a hostile message.
What is the game plan from their angle? If you look at their capabilities, if you compare them one for one, it is clear that the United States would win a maritime engagement. But what is the message with regards to what Russia calls their near abroad? What is the message to our friends, our partners, and to those small countries around China when you hear these kinds of military exercises?
Well, it's what the Chinese emperors said to what they considered to be vassal states. 3 words: tremble and obey.
Yeah.
And they're not only saying that to the Cambodians of the world, they're also saying it to the United States.
Yeah, it is an attempt. It's one of the first things we were very proud of doing in the Trump administration, our first calls to Abe and others to send a message to that part of the world, even to countries like Vietnam, that the age of Chinese intimidation is over. At least it was for 4 years, but now it seems to be back. Second, very important topic that seems to have disappeared into a memory hole, Gordon. What about Hong Kong? Is it lost forever? What's going on in Hong Kong?
Well, right now, China's tightening down the screws, and it's trying to prevent both people and businesses from leaving because a lot of people are actually leaving the territory for good. And businesses in the financial sector are also starting to go, and Beijing is trying to pressure them to stay. Really what's happened is the protest movement has gone quiet, but as a friend of mine says, who actually was on the ground for all the time on the protests, he says that these aren't protests, this is an insurgency, and he points out that insurgencies go away, they melt away for a time, but they always come back. His name is Michael Yon, and he's a war correspondent, and he spent time in Hong Kong watching all of this. And so, yes, it's quiet now, but it could very well come back. And we've seen people in Hong Kong actually express a lot of discontent with China, even despite all of their moves to eliminate dissent.
He's Gordon G. Chang. Follow him right now on Twitter, Gordon G. Chang. Your latest work is The Great USChina Tech War. We seem to be at war with ourselves here in America when it comes to big tech, when it comes to censorship of those who disagree with the views of Palo Alto. Explain to us the dynamics of the US-China Tech War, if you would.
China is leading in certain critical tech areas, and in those areas where it's not, it's just close behind, nipping at our heels. Go back a decade ago, China was not considered to be a tech leader. Now, some people call it that it is. But whatever it is, we can catch up, but we can't catch up if we fight among ourselves. And that's unfortunately what's going on, especially with the left trying to eliminate voices of discontent with the Biden administration. So right now, we are not investing in ourselves. We are not meeting the China challenge. And we got to do that because if we don't meet that challenge, we're going to be in second place for the rest of this century.
If I may ask you to just do something that the U.S. military calls red teaming in the last few minutes we have with you, Gordon. If we try to pretend to be communist China, to be in the minds of the Central Committee in Beijing, how do they look? How do you expect them to be looking at this new administration that has already issued more than 40 executive actions in just the first 9 days? What is their view of the new America under Biden?
Well, we know that before the election, they thought that they could push the U.S. around if Biden were elected, that they could determine outcomes at the highest levels of the American political system because they saw the reestablishment of the Wall Street link to 1600 Pennsylvania. So we don't have to speculate about that. We know what elite voices in Beijing were saying.
And that ominous video isn't a one-off. It's not an outlier, the one that I think Tucker Carlson had snippets of with subtitles. That is indicative of the attitude in Beijing.
Yes, that was Professor Di Dongsheng of Renmin University on November 28th in a broadcast throughout China. Yes, that is indicative of attitudes in Beijing right now.
And then what is, in the last literally 60 seconds we have with you, what is the thing that most Americans do not appreciate about the threat that China poses this nation and that you would like them to appreciate right now?
China is trying to overthrow the government of the United States. It's inflamed opinions. It's done this through its Twitter operations and through sending TikTok videos to Americans, urging them to go out on the streets and commit acts of violence. So this is more than just subversion, Seb. This is acts of war.
It's not just subversion. It's not just indirect warfare. It is an active attempt to subvert this nation. Why? Because they've made it clear they wish to be the only hegemonic power in the world. It's called One Belt, One Road. It is called irregular warfare, unrestricted warfare, and they're doing it right now.